Hello there, all you amazing people. It's me with the bush on my cap. I don't know. I'm going to make a little bit of a rant because I am going from this old Lenovo here to a Dell. I can't show you. It's recharging that has like a way newer CPU and stuff like that. And I'm migrating my Linux. This is my Linux laptop. I have a development Windows laptop also. And you can see my GitHub there if you want to see some of the small things that I'm working on. I have a lot of private repos that may be open. I'm going to talk about Linux and something that came into my mind. And I really wanted to watch this video to the end before you comment and stuff like that. And then you can like and subscribe and ring the ding bell, join my Discord, or not bottle and all that if you choose. But please watch it to the end. It means a lot to me. And when I'm talking about Linux on my live streams that I do over on Twitch, or if in comment section here, or my past live stream I did here on YouTube, I get this like, but it works for me. 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 The thing I want you to take away from this is that we are not the same. Clearly enough, you're not like a fat bastard sitting in Denmark ranting about Linux right now at 10:25 or 22. Sorry. The way you use your computer, from the software you use to the games you play to the way you like to set up, is totally different from someone that may be having the same interests, running the same system, the same Linux distribution with the same desktop. We are all different. So in development, there's this like little joke that, well, it worked on my computer, because you see a lot of times when the manager comes into the office and it's like, this don't fucking work, what's wrong with you guys? The accountant department or the production department are yelling and screaming and blah blah blah, but it worked on my machine. And that is, again, every computer is not the same computer. Even with the same hardware, we could have set Windows up differently than in the development suite or office than we have in the production office. Depending on what kind of development you make, Windows, if you're using Windows 11, and I think also 10 as your development platform, it wants you or demand you to put yourself into development mode. That's the thing. And gives you some options, benefits, telemetry. It's a little bit like on your Android. If you build Android apps, like I also do on the side a little bit, the calorie tracker that I'm building here, I need to make an Android app for that so they can talk together. You also have to put it into development mode. And that may mean that when it's in development mode, there are stuff in there that works because it's in development mode. You get what I'm saying here. So I'm kind of just want to give a few examples why Linux is irritating. Like, I sit here and I'm like, I had proper with so this big slap here that I'm hitting myself. It's a really good old T14 or L4, what do they call them? It's dirty as fuck because I throw it on the floor. It's a T490. And I actually have a video or live stream where I install Windows on it or something like that, either on this or on the other channel. This is a solid beater. Okay, if you want a laptop and you take care of it, like, but I got this for like $200 or something like that. If you want a laptop, you just want to watch Netflix, you just want to watch YouTube, you just want to, consume a consumption device. Even though this is an 8th gen Intel, it's amazing. The battery life is not the best, but, if you're just using it at home or in bed, you can just tear that up. It's also a really decent light development machine, even for Android development. If you have like a physical device you're not emulating. This spec actually used to be my old development laptop. And I used it for a year doing enterprise development, back-end development, stock management development and stuff like that. And it was not fast, but it was fine, Throw this on the floor again, on a cardboard box that I need to throw out. I wanted to migrate over to a newer Dell because I love Linux, and I'm enjoying Pop! OS. I'm switching. I'm between Pop! OS and Mint all the time because I'm over the other frustration with Linux is that a lot of distributions, all the Lerber sweeps, You have to do this or else you're not a man kind of distribution. Your testes will fall off and you will grow a vagina. Or if you're a girl, your vagina will fall off and you will grow a penis kind of distributions. I don't want to be a system administrator for my computer. When I boot up my computer, I want to know there is a high chance, at least as good as a chance as with Windows, that I can just start developing, start gaming, start doing this. And that means you have to use some of the user-friendly distros, okay? And that just means you get to work faster. So I love Mint, I love Pop OS. There's other distributions out there, all the Arch Linux and the Gentoo. I've done that. I probably installed Arch Linux and derivatives of that more times than you can count just from 2000 to 2010. I installed Gentoo like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 30 times in that period also. And all kind. There was a distribution I was really fond of called Sebion Linux. Google that. But anyway, I just want to get to work. I just want to get to my stuff. And I was thinking about this when I was setting it up. What do I want to do with it? Because I do mostly Windows development. I will also do a little bit of Linux at some point. But I was like, oh, it could be a streaming machine. You know, I plugged my gaming lab computer into it, and we have a second computer so we have more resource for games and all that fucking jazz. Just technical fun. And then I came into problems because the software that I like to use, that I am familiar with, that has all my settings and stuff like that, just don't support under Linux. So, yes, this is not the best. I use OBS right now to record, but I like Streamlabs for one reason. You set it up once. You have to make an account for this to work, but you set it up once. And if I reinstall Windows or go over to a Mac or another computer and I log in with my account, it remembers my transitions, my alert boxes. I don't have to reset up my live streaming setup. So I use Streamlabs for live streaming because it has a way many more intricate moving parts versus my recording software, OBS, that basically has just a few scenes. Like I have a capture card, which is my Elgato capture card, the Elgato webcam, and then what monitor I want to capture for recording YouTube videos or gameplay and stuff like that locally. If you look at my now we get an overcast. If you look at my Streamlabs, way more bullshit going on there. So I just don't want to sit and every time I install the Windows, or every time I'm forced to reinstall Windows, or if it's like, well, this 6 months I want to use my Mac machines, and I need to be able to live stream, so I need to install. I don't want to sit and set that up every time. So there's a lot of quality of life conveniences with this software. And it's the same with Prism, which is mostly a mobile live streaming app. They kind of do the same, and this is actually built around OBS. This is OBS as a base, just like Streamlabs, and then they build their own shit on top of it. The fun thing here is none of them support Linux. And that's another thing where it works for me kind of mentality comes in, and then they're like, well, use an alternative. Why don't you just use OBS? OBS will work just fine. It can do the same shit. Yes, but it don't have the quality of life stuff that I want. Because it does make it so much faster every time you get a new computer. And you may not get that a lot. I get it. This is a really, really unique content creator problem. But this goes in with a lot of other things when you think about it. I don't want OBS. Because OBS don't give me this. Yes, I can export stuff and whatnot, but then I need to have that file or that folder that I exported on a thumb drive or laying around on a NAS and stuff like that. This is in the cloud. You get what I'm coming at here. And the same go for I use Affinity. If you don't like Photoshop and their pricing and stuff like to Photoshop, do this, and it's free now. You just need a Canva account. And it's better than Photoshop, in my opinion. It does a lot of great shit better than Photoshop. And it's free now. But it's not on Linux. And you say, but GIMP. But that, yeah, I know, but I have a workflow set up that works. This is a industry standard now, to some degree, professional editing suite, where GIMP is kind of getting there, but it's not. Like, you can get courses in Affinity and Photoshop and stuff like that that will lead to a job. If you take a course in GIMP, it's not guaranteed it will lead you to a job, because most design offices and stuff like that, they are looking for people that know how to use Affinity or Photoshop, because it integrates with a lot of other backends and other products that they're using really, really, really well, where GIMP don't. So all of this, like, well, just use this alternative. It just don't fucking work. If you want, do I have my iPhone is here. I have an iPhone. I was in an iPhone spat at one point. If you want an iPhone, if you need an iPhone with the apps and whatnot that's in there and the way they work, alternatives don't cut it. And I'm really sorry to say this to all you Linux champions out there. Alternatives don't cut it. They really fucking don't. If I need Affinity, if I need Streamlabs, or Photoshop, because they give me something any other tool don't give me. And it don't have to be like right in front of things that you use. Because the fun thing here is that if you are a casual user, and I'm going to offend a lot of you, so sorry, you can castrate me later. But if you're a casual user, it's so much easier for you to switch software, operating systems, ecosystems. The more pro, in quotes, that you become, or you use pro features in powerful software, it becomes so much easier. So much harder. If you have a business that's built up around the whole Apple ecosystem, with the Apple integration, with the Photoshop or Adobe suites of integration in the front, back, sideways, upways, downways, and you have workforce that you're paying thousands of dollars a month to work in that ecosystem, that are experts in those ecosystems, you can't just go in and say, you can save money by going with Linux. You should choose Linux, GIMP, and whatever. It will not work. It will not work. First of all, they have to basically, buy a shit ton of new hardware, because if they're in the Apple ecosystem, there's a good chance that, Linux is not that fucking well supported under Apple's silicon, so they probably need to buy a lot of new hardware. They need to retrain everyone in the fucking office. And some of them may not even want to do it, because they spend massive amount of money getting the education they have, and they can get a job probably paying more in another company. So they just move. So now they need to hire new people. They also need to find a new software, make it as productive, and that means a lot of testing, like research and development, testing. We are talking to get, let's say, someone that's really into the Affinity, Adobe ecosystem, and let's say Mac ecosystem, which is even harder to get out of if you're into that, to change everything into alternatives, or changing everything into Linux. If you do those two things, it can go years before that return in investment becomes a reality. So that means productivity, knowledge of the employees, bugs ironed out in the setting, infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. So it kind of drives my mentalities into like a really, really hard cannonball. When people say, it works for me, use the alternatives, I do that. I have tried for close to 30 years to use the alternatives to do this. But at some point, you get into a situation where if I don't use Affinity, I lose time. Which means I lose time where I could make money, or I could make videos, or I could do other things that is more productive than getting GIMPs to do what I want to do. So a really, really good example here is, I used to do this a lot myself. So I used to take XFCE, and I used to spend hours to make it kind of like GNOME, with a lot of extensions. So I'm like, why am I not just using GNOME then? so I use GNOME. Because if you're trying to make something into something else, that's because you were trying to force, in my case, I was trying to force XFCE into be GNOME. Then I went into GNOME and I had to, I'm using all of these extensions and putting the Distro panel and all of these things to make it kind of function and look like KDE. Well, what am I really doing here? Well, I'm trying to shoehorn GNOME into becoming KDE because I like the KDE setup better. I like the KDE layout better than GNOME. Why the fuck am I not using KDE? Is it and my answer to this is TTK is the most supported library on Linux. Therefore, apps looks a little bit better in TTK-based desktop environments. And I'm sorry for the whole fucking overcasting thing going on right now. It's Denmark, and now the sun comes out. If I'm I refuse to use Affinity because proprietary, whatever the fuck it is, and then I'm taking GIMP and I'm installing 10,000 plugins. I'm trying to shoehorn GIMP into becoming Affinity. That should tell you that you don't want GIMP. You want Affinity. You just wish Affinity was open source and all that stuff. Or if you're installing a shit ton of plugins to make OBS function and work like Streamlabs, you really don't want OBS, you want Streamlabs. And just be honest about it. Because it really frustrates me when I see all of these YouTube videos about, I am moving to Linux, and then this is how I set up my desktop environment, and they don't write KDE because it's too complicated. I can install Arch Linux and Gentoo and all of these fancy distributions. I can't set up KDE for some fucking reason. GUI customizations freedom is too much. But I can sit and fiddle around in systemd. I don't know why that's a big problem. That KDE is too difficult, which is really fucking not. If you can install Linux, you can set up KDE. So they take GNOME, and they're like, GNOME don't have all of these fancy things I need, so they install plugins and all that. Well, you have XFCE, you have Cosmic, you have GNOME, you have all of these other desktop environments, not GNOME, XFCE, Cosmic, KDE, all of these other desktop environments that will do all of that for you built in. You don't have to sit and install third-party add-ons that will maybe break your system or make it less efficient, etc., etc., etc. Why don't you just go with the thing you're trying to make it into becoming? And that's because you're not honest with yourself. You're trying to force yourself, for some reason, into something like, I am a GNOME user, I'm a Linux user, when it don't suit your lifestyle, or it don't suit your workflow, or it don't suit where you are in your life right now. There was a time in the good old noughts and up to 2010 where Linux was for me. I didn't do much tech stuff. I was taking an education. I was also in the army at that time. I was drinking a lot, partying a lot. So I did still help people with Linux and computers and the tech support, but it was not massive. So I could live in Linux there because what I did with my computer was a lot more personal. I spent most of my computing time doing stuff for myself. Then I got my education, out of the army and all that fucking shit. And I started to help more people. And of course, more people, more Windows users, so I needed a dedicated Windows machine. And I started to get into more gaming, and at that point we didn't have Proton. So I was like, I had two computers. Or dual booting. Either dual booting or two computers. And it just becomes a hassle. Oh, I want to game for an hour, close everything down, reboot into Windows, play the game for an hour and a half, shut everything down, reboot into Linux. It's just stupid. Or closing the Linux laptop down, playing some games, and it's just stupid when I could do everything I needed to do on my gaming computer. And that was kind of in the mid-10s, I realized I for my lifestyle at that point, or still to this day, when I'm using Linux, I'm trying to shoehorn it in to do what Windows is doing for me, or Mac OS is doing for me. But that should tell me, which it does, that I need Windows more than I need Linux. And try and do this yourself. If you are, let's look up, I'm using just using Edge here for some fucking weird reason. I don't know why. Oh yeah, it's because I'm logged into my GitHub on Edge and not the other browsers. If you are messing around with good old XFCE, I love XFCE. But if you're like, I want XFCE to behave like KDE, GNOME, Cosmic, whatever it is, that should tell you that you really don't want XFCE. You want whatever desktop environment you're trying to make XFCE into becoming. And you see this also in the corporate world and stuff like that. People will buy or use software in their businesses and try like, well, I want to save 10%. So they're trying to shoehorn a suite of applications into doing something they're not, building supporting software up around it, scripts and whatnot to make it do something just to save 10%. And those 10% they think they're saving, they're now spending on maintaining their own scripts, their own supporting software, lack of efficiency because they are doing all of this, outside third-party plugin shit that may not work someday and then it works, then an update comes to the software they use, they have to update. It's a mess. So what I kind of like, and it's also like this irritating me, like, try and be honest with yourself. When you're using Linux, are you trying to make whatever you use under Linux into becoming something else just because, I don't want to use it because it's proprietary, or it's whatever it is? Because if you are, then just stop doing it and just use the fucking proprietary software. You're not ruining the world. Like, you're not making the world worse. And stop. We need to stop this. It works for me. I have games that makes Linux hard for me. I have applications that I use that makes me 10, 15 times more productive. That's a thing. That makes Linux hard for me. And it's not because of lack of trying. I've been trying to make Linux work since 1997 or 6 or something like that. Like, I would not have spent this many years trying to make Linux work if I did not want it to work. And at some point it did work, just like it works for you right now. But in the future, it may not. And alternatives may not even be the answer. Because the time and extra effort you have to put in to make it do what you really, really want it to do may hinder your productivity, your uptime, your output, just because you don't want to go to Windows and a proprietary software or both. Nothing is worth wasting time on, especially professional, just so you can say, I'm a Mac guy, Windows guy, open source, proprietary. It don't fucking matter. In the corporate world, the only thing that matters is is time and money. How fast and how cheap can you do it? Or how fast and how much can we make? That's the only fucking thing that matters. And besides that, in the hobby space, it's just, I have an interest in it, which is fair enough. But that don't mean that everyone else should have the same interest and should do what you're doing. It's like, just because I like building birdhouses don't mean you have to build birdhouses. And you have to use the same tools and the same wood and do it in the same way as me, and you have these 5 colors to choose from. If it's a hobby, it's individual. If you're a hobbyist, it's an individual thing. It's for you. So, does it work for you? Yeah, building birdhouses work for me. Don't for a lot of people. Is there alternative wood and stuff like that other people use that works better for them because where they live and the price of wood and stuff? Yeah. Please. This whole long spiel rant here about it works for me and just use the alternatives. You have to remember that there are so many other moving pieces that comes into play here with, is it even doable? Or should we? If it's on a hobby side, if you don't work in IT, you don't use Linux or FOSS as a professional tool, aka it pays your bills, it's a hobby. And that means that whatever you do is so unique and centered and specially focused around you, or me in this case, but you. So how you use your computer as a hobbyist, as a gamer, as a content creator, if you're a single content creator like me, is so narrowed focused to my specific situation or your specific situation. And we can't just take me and switch out with you and it will all be handy dandy. That's not how this works. Okay? It's so unique. In the corporate world, they have standards, they have guidelines, production papers you have to follow. No matter if you're a mechanic or a fucking IT guy, there are certain things in every company that's done in a certain way, and that's just how you follow the rule book. And that dictates what equipment you're using. I hope I make sense. So yeah, please stop this it works for me and just use the alternative. Sometimes the alternatives can't be used, not because they're bad, it's just they don't fit. And your situation is not my situation, and my situation is not your situation. Especially if you're just hobbyists. It's our personal computer. The hardware, the peripherals, the way we work with it, what we like, what we don't like, is unique to you and me. And there's no worse argument if someone has issues in Linux or Windows or Mac and say, but it works for me. It will help no one. Because you can sit there and tell them what you've done and give them the config files, the command line prompts you have to put in, and it will not work one fucking bit for them with their setup. So again, please adopt this thing that if it works for you, it works for you. If you can use alternative, you can use alternative. Don't mean anyone else have to, should, or it will work for them. We have to be more open-minded, broad spectrum viewing about other people's situation in the computing world. And it can come down to just what fucking country you live in, sadly enough. I hope this was a little bit interesting, make you think a little bit, because I really, really want this but it works for me, or just use an alternative. I want that should not be in the conversation. Unless someone asks for an alternative. Okay? See you all later. Be safe. Bye-bye.